What's up, St. Louis? Jamal Mayers here. Want a chance to watch the Blues like an insider with me? When you become an annual STL Sports Central insider, you're automatically entered to win. We're picking 2 winners, each bringing a guest to join me in the Blues Alumni Suite for the game versus the Edmonton Oilers on Friday, March 13th. That's right, Connor McDavid. We'll have free drinks, heavy appetizers, and an unforgettable night of Blues hockey. Sign up now at STL Sports Central, and I'll see you at the game.
And welcome to the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker with you. And it's great to have you with us because we're closing in on our 1-year anniversary. It is going to be happy birthday for STL Sports Central. And coming up on February 17th, when we celebrate that first birthday, Matthew, we've got a ton of stuff. We're going to give away prizes. We're going to give away stuff. And there's how you can enter. And we're going to give away tickets to the Cardinals, to the Blues, to Mizzou. We've got autographed merchandise courtesy of Joe Yancey and Fanfare Collectibles. Find out how you can register and win on all the STL Sports Central social media accounts. And it's going to be quite a week next week when we have our official celebration.
Yeah, you guys got about 6 days here to get in your entries right now. It's pretty easy. You just got to be subscribed or following us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Take a quick screenshot of that. And then you can help us out. You can email STL SC giveaway at gmail.com, a screenshot of you being subscribed on YouTube, or you can retweet and tag a friend. Do all of those things right there. Repost your story on Instagram, tag a friend, share the post on your Facebook, tag a friend, and retweet it, tag a friend as well. Get us an email of that screenshot of you being subscribed, and then you are entered to win one of these incredible prizes: Cardinals, Blues, and Mizzou tickets. Plus, we got autographed merchandise courtesy of Joe Yancey and Fanfare Collectibles. In fact, I'm pretty sure we've dealt with our friend before, and they got incredible stuff there. So this is a pretty good chance. You got to do a little work, got to do a little legwork to get yourself a prize here, but it's going to be a good one. The Mizzou tickets are going to be incredible as they continue to win some games. They continue to work their way up, and also all of these signed and autographed material from our good friend over at Fanfare Collectibles is going to be great stuff. So all those 3 ways to win: Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter. Make it happen.
And you should be subscribed here on YouTube anyway, and you can use all of our socials on the X, on the Facebook, on the Instagram, and we want to have you win stuff. So just keep paying attention, and we'll have that for you every day, how you can enter and how you can get free stuff from STL Sports Central. Matthew, this is always one of our favorite days of the year, right before spring training starts or right as spring training starts. It's really cool when the PECOTA ratings come out, the PECOTA Projections for Major League Baseball, available at Baseball Prospectus, and they aren't very kind, at least right now, to the 2026 St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. And again, the PECOTA, we got just the boilerplate on them as well. They are projections. This is the average of all their projections, which means there's simulations where the Cardinals win a few more games than this. There's simulation of the Cardinals lose more games than this. But the average of all their simulations comes out to technically 65.9 and 96.1. But you'll forgive me for doing a little rounding in the title. We're going to go 66 and 96 for the Cardinals. And I've already told some people as well, I have a bet out there with a fan for Benjamin on the Cardinals at 69.5. So I'm not a big fan of PECOTA right now.
I don't blame you.
It happens.
Now,
also, shout out Mac J7, new YouTube member. We appreciate it as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps you win some tickets. It helps us keep doing our job, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Okay, so Baseball Prospectus gives the Cardinals a 0.3% chance of winning the division, a 0.1% chance of being a wild card, and a 0.4% chance of making the playoffs. Percentage chance to reach the division series is 0.1. And here's the big one, Matthew. The chance to the 7 or 1 day delta for playoff percentage is 0.0. So they are very confident in the Cardinals. That being said, they're very confident in the Doyers. Doyers at 99.8% to make the playoffs this year. And our friends at Bill PECOTA has them at 104 wins, has the Dodgers winning 104 games. I
I'm
don't know how Bill
shocked.
PECOTA got into this. Bill PECOTA was mediocre player, then all of a sudden becomes a projection guy, and every year comes out with these projections, and usually he's not very good. What he did.
Yeah, it because again, it is a rounded area. The interesting thing is just the scope I like to look at is the Dodgers are at 104, then you said the Mariners at 94 is the next closest, and the Cardinals are their second worst team based on projections. They're right in the same ballpark as the Nationals, who just signed Miles Michaelis, and the Los Angeles Angels, who are a moribund franchise run by people. And so that's, I think, something that's interesting to me is where do the Cardinals break out in their standings just relative to everybody else? And that's second worst in Major League Baseball.
Only to the Rockies.
Only over the very, very pathetic Rockies.
Yeah. So, usually when PECOTA comes out, I'm outraged because I think they're underestimating the Cardinals. I think it's really hard to estimate this team, even if you have computers and projections, because how many players do the Cardinals have that have played full seasons in the majors? So how can you really project when Gorman hasn't played a full season in the majors? Wynn has, Weatherholt hasn't, Burley has, I guess you could say Pages has, but Victor Scott II still has, well, I guess last year he did, and then Walker has not. So because of injuries and other things. And then the pitching staff, Liberatore is the only guy that's really pitched a full season where he's made 30 starts. Everybody else is either young or hasn't been given the opportunity because of injuries. So I think this is a really hard team to judge. I'm not saying that they're going to win 90 games. I'm not going to say they're going to win 80, but to place a specific number on a group of players who primarily have played minor league baseball, for me, is very difficult.
Again, it's not a specific number. It is a round number over the thousands of simulations they run the season to get the standings. We did have somebody pointing out the FanGraph projections. Skyboy, I don't know where you're reading this. I'm reading 74.8, which I would round up to 75. You've taken a very, very kindergarten way of rounding there, which I'm okay with. We can get up to 76, but it looks like 75 right now. And so that's the first time I haven't looked at the FanGraph projections yet before this. So that's a little bit better. And FanGraphs usually does a little bit better of a job of putting these kind of things together. I'm not just saying that because 75 would obviously win me some money, but I think when you talk about the addition by subtraction, you get from, again, coincidentally enough, Miles Michaelis, you get rid of Eric Fetty. You give longer leashes to Matthew Liberatore, Michael McGreevy. You get Kyle Leahy, maybe even in a better position as a starter, maybe late in the game. It's not for position or a playoff position, but late in the game, you get a boost from a guy like Liam Doyle or an Austin Matthews. Plus, JJ Weatherholt goes from being a rookie to, whatever he might be, 4 or 5 months after first seeing Major League Baseball pitching. So there's all these factors that make me think there's no reason why the Cardinals should have this large of a drop-off from last year's win total. I understand there's going to be a drop-off because when you see the lineup as it's constructed right now, and we talked about it earlier, right now when you talk about, let's just use OPS plus as a base, you have 2.5 major league hitters right now in your lineup, who are healthy. And so I expect a drop from the lineup. There's no doubt about that. But if Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman pop, then I'll be wrong about that. And I actually have a lot of positivity about the pitching depth.
All right. Skyboy asks, how can the chance to be a wild card be less than to win the division? And the reason for that is because you only have to beat one team to win the division, and they're projecting that the Cubs will win 90 games. But to be a wild card, they've got the Mets and the Phillies finishing with more wins than the Cubs, along with the Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks. So they've got all of those teams finishing with more wins. So those teams there's more opportunities for teams to beat the Cardinals in the wild card than there are in the division. So Chicago, and by the way, they've got the Cardinals finishing last in their division, but the Cardinals would have a better chance if they win 91 games to win the division than they would to be a wild card if if things play out as Bill PECOTA expects that they will. But they've got they've got the Mets at 89 wins. They've got the Phillies at 86. Again, they've got the Cubs winning this division with 90. They've got San Diego with 81, San Francisco with 81. So
the best example is when you look at like Detroit, who's projected to finish second in the AL Central. They have a 34% chance to win the division and a 12% chance to be a wild card team.
Yeah.
So that's because the AL Central, according to PECOTA and anybody else who's watching baseball, is going to be a very bad division. It's going to be kind of close, but it's going to be bad. The Royals, they have projected at 85 wins. The White Sox, they have projected at 69, and those are the top and bottom of the AL Central. So that one, not great when you look across it. In fact, what is fan? Let's check out what Fangraphs is doing for the divisions right now. How bad do they have the AL Central going? They have the Tigers with 86 wins and the White Sox with 68. So again, a pretty poor division for the AL Central. Although this is crazy, Fangraphs has the Mariners only as an 87 win team.
Huh?
That'd be a bit of a fall off.
Yeah. Now, one of the teams that you mentioned there, Detroit, they just signed Justin Verlander, who was great in the second half of the Giants last year, coming back to Detroit, presumably to end his career. But they have Skubal. They added Framber Valdez. They've got Jack Flaherty. They've got Casey Mize. Now they add Justin Verlander to that mix. They've got a bullpen with Kenley Jansen and Kyle Finnegan. They've got a lineup that arrived on the scene last year, and they're pretty darn good. I would not be at all surprised if the Tigers wind up being a really good team. And for Cardinal fans, the Tigers of 3 years ago are kind of what the Cardinals are in 2026. If you look at the 2023, 2024 Tigers, I kind of think that's the projection that and the trajectory that the Cardinals will probably be on. And it could be really rugged. The Cardinals could lose 96 games this year. However, you figure out who's going to be good. You give some people an opportunity to grow up a little bit. And then you look at last year with Torkelson getting better during the course of the season. They had guys last year that were surprising to a lot of people because people thought, okay, well, they've been around for a couple of years. They haven't performed. They must suck. Well, Torkelson last year winds up with a 789 OPS. He was really good for a good part of the season. Riley Green wound up with an 806 OPS, 36 homers, 111 RBIs. He hadn't done it yet before last year. They have some people that step up and perform at a really high level. And a couple of years ago, if we go back to 2023, many of the same performers for the Tigers, let's go back to 2022, that was a 66-win team, just like the Cardinals are projected to be this year. And in that group, you had Spencer Torkelson, and you had Riley Green, and you had Javi Baez, and all of those guys either arrived or bounced back. In the case of Baez last year, Baez was an all-star, didn't have a great second half. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a growth project, much like what Detroit has experienced for the last 4 years. And now I look at Detroit, Matthew, and I think they're a team that's really capable of winning that division. And if things fall their way, especially at the top of their rotation, I mean, if you are in a playoff and you have Skubal and you have Valdez and you have Flaherty, or if Verlander pitches the way he did last season in the second half of the year, all of a sudden you've got your hands full. If you're the Yankees or if you're the Blue Jays or if you're whomever comes out of the West, I think Detroit could be a threat.
To your point, by the way, Justin Verlander in his first 18 starts of the year, wow, he had 18 games played and they went, okay. He went 1-9. They went 5-13. My apologies. He had a 4.5 ERA. Those last 2 months, his ERA was a 2.8. And the team went 5-6. He went 3-3. But yeah, he dropped it to a 2.8 from a 4.5 for the last 60 innings, the last 2 months of that game. He actually did that too, while also having 2 blow-up games where he allowed 5 earned runs and 6 earned runs in losses early on in August. He absolutely blew. I mean, he was fantastic in September and late August. That's kind of crazy. I can't believe I'll be shocked if he does it again, but at the same time, it's, bet against him at your own will, I guess.
Yeah, he knows how to pitch. Samuel Howe, I love this. The fact of the matter is that as it stands today, we are in first place. Yes, we are.
I hate that. Whatever. Damn you and your eternal optimism. Something I was just mentioning, and this conversation got brought up the other morning when I was talking with Cam and the cat. They somebody threw out the idea of like which are you more worried about this season? And I guess controversially, which one do you have more confidence about this season? The pitching or the hitting? And I was the only one of the group that said I was more confident in the pitching than the hitting. And I don't understand. I guess if you're thinking with Mason Wynn naturally continues to grow, adding JJ Weatherholt, I guess there's a lot higher of a ceiling for the lineup. There's no doubt about that in my mind, but it's so thin and there's not a lot of floor to land on, as opposed to the pitching, which has a lot of, maybe not high ceiling potential and options, but there's just a lot of options. Where are you sitting on that?
I'm confident, not confident. I'm more confident that the runway provided to the young players last year will benefit them this year. People I think we'll find out what Walker is, what Gorman is. I do think, like you, that Wynn will get better. I think Weatherholt's going to be a good hitter. I know what Burleson is. So I feel confident in knowing what I'm going to get out of the lineup. Aside from Matthew Liberatore, I'm not so sure. I want to see 6 months out of Michael McGreevy. I don't know what to expect at all out of Fitz or Dobbins, the guys who came over from Boston. I don't know what to expect from a guy like Kyle Leahy if he lands in the starting rotation, or if Palante gets another opportunity. I'm just really bewildered, and I won't be surprised to see them go either way. I wouldn't be surprised, though, Matthew, to see some of these pitchers get off to a good start and then fade after about 3 months, because it's really hard to get your body prepared to pitch for 6 months of a season. And I think that's where the Cardinals are right now with a lot of these young starters. Look how long it took Matthew Liberatore to get to a point where he could make 30 starts and throw 150 innings. McGreevy can do that. We know that McGreevy can. But after those guys, man, I have real concerns about this starting rotation's ability to go deep into a season. So that's why I feel better just slightly about the offense than the pitching. Although I do think the talent is there for the pitching, I don't think the preparation and the experience is there for the pitching to be great or even average in 2026.
Yeah, I definitely think the lineup has a much higher potential this season. That's fair. Samuel Howe getting really high on the potential. Quinn Matthews winning 20 with JJ getting Rookie of the Year. Seems like 500 at least. Yeah, that'd be fun if it could happen, but I just don't see it happening. Shout out again to Skyboy for pointing out the FanGraphs projections, which I like a little bit better than the PECOTA projections. As we're talking about those, since you read off those percentages, they have the Cardinals at 3% to win the division, 0.3% to get in to clinch a bye, and their wild card percentage is higher than the division. They got a 4.5% chance to clinch a wild card, and they put it totally at a 7.6% chance to make the playoffs. Shout out again to Skyboy for pointing out the FanGraphs projections in comparison to PECOTA.
I'll tell you who I like, and I know PECOTA has 80 wins for Pittsburgh. What does FanGraphs have for the Pirates? And I wonder 83. If this has been updated since they signed Ozuna, because with the additions of Lau and O'Hearn and Ozuna to that offense, and they've still got Brian Reynolds there, and they've still got O'Neal Cruz and some other guys. I kind of like Pittsburgh now. I love their starting pitching. I don't know what Bubba Chandler is going to be, but you know what you're going to get out of Skeens. You know what you're going to get out of a healthy Jared Jones. If Bubba Chandler turns into the guy that they think he's going to be, and you add him to the mix with Keller, that's a team that could do some damage in the NL Central this year. And I would not be surprised if they could play with everybody in that ballpark with that offense. I think the Pirates have a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like this was updated today. So they got them for 83 with the moves they've been making as of late. They got a 24% chance to win the Central, a 43% overall chance, 44% if you want to round up, to make the playoffs.
Okay, good. So, by the way, I was
Also
talking
down
about
to the
Hunter
Brewers.
Biden.
By the way, just the Brewers, unlike the PECOTA projections, which have the Brewers below 500 but over the Pirates, the projections from FanGraphs have the Brewers at 82 and 80, but that's just below the Pirates 82 and 80.
So, I wanted to point out, by the way, just in terms of innings and having guys grow up, Hunter Dobbins did throw 125 and 2/3 innings a couple of years ago between AAA, AA, and he didn't get to the majors. He got to the majors last year, but he did throw 125 innings. So that's a guy. If let's see, 25, he got hurt, but if you do give him 10% this year, then all of a sudden you're looking at 137, maybe 140 innings out of Dobbins if he's healthy and you can get him going on opening day. His major leagues, he's only made 11 starts, but he's 4-1 with a 4.13. And for the Cardinals, 45 innings in 60 or 45 strikeouts in 61 innings. They look at that. So hopefully Hunter Dobbins will be able to give the Cardinals something this year. And you mentioned earlier that you have confidence in the pitching. The pitching talent is there. I don't question that. I think Dobbins has a chance to be a middle to back of the rotation guy. I think Fitz can be a middle to back of the rotation guy. I think Liberatore would be fine as a number 2. Hopefully Doyle or Matthews winds up being a 1 or a 2. And then McGreevy will fit in there somewhere, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think McGreevy is a front of the rotation guy, but there are a lot of opportunities for the Cardinals this year to find out, number one, if they have a number 1 guy, and then how everybody else slots in. Who's the guy that you pitch in game 2 of a series? Who's the guy at the back of the rotation that needs to give you innings? And who are the guys that are just going to be middle of the rotation guys that are reliable? They aren't going to be the guys that you pitch against the Logan Webbs of the world or the Otanis or anybody on the Dodgers, but you can find some guys that can pitch against the middle of most teams' rotations. You can find that guy that can beat Miles Michaelis of the Washington Nationals when the Cardinals take on Washington. That's what you need to find, is that guy with that Hunter Dobbins with the 4.13 ERA. You give me a guy that gives me 30 starts and 150 innings and a 4.13 ERA. That can be my 3, 4, or 5. I have no problem at all with that.
And I think that's also my point, is just there's so many bodies when it comes to the pitching staff, and obviously it's always going to be like that, but it didn't feel like that last year. It felt like we kept having to see these guys because there weren't anybody else they could throw out. There was no Memphis shuttle like there had been in previous seasons. And like I said, much higher ceiling for the lineup. But I think the floor is a lot higher with the pitching staff, and I think that's why I'm confident they can get to 70 wins, because, you know, if Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker don't work out, you know, they might be able to fill one of those spots. But if both of those guys don't work out and VS2 doesn't change his approach at the plate, all of a sudden there's holes in that lineup that are popping up that they don't really have the bodies to fill. And so there's not a lot of pivot room. There's not a lot of versatility. And I know that's become a kind of a byword for redundancy with the Cardinals organization the last few years, but I really think the versatility they have with the pitching, the fact that they can move around Kyle Leahy and Andre Palante from the bullpen or the starting role, depending on how the starters do, that's a huge thing. The fact that there are multiple, there's one big name young player that we're really talking about that hasn't gotten major league experience yet this year with the lineup, JJ Weatherholt. When it comes to the pitching staff, you know, there's 3 or 4 young guys who don't have MLB time yet, or who have very minimal MLB time, that we could see this year with the Cardinals. And so there's a lot of young pitchers who would come through this year and impact. And so seeing those guys grow, giving guys runway, also I think gives me a lot of positivity about the pitching staff as opposed to the lineup, is because there's just so many more, you know, you call them darts to be thrown, prospects, chances, you know, what have you, more dice to throw in the game. That's kind of why I'm leaning towards having a little bit more confidence overall about what we could see from the pitching staff, because things go wrong with the lineup, and it can spiral pretty quickly depending on which parts of the lineup don't work out. Whereas if pitching, every part that they have, there's depth and they can pivot.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. A couple of chats here, and I think it's important to point out because I have not seen these young guys pitch. So when we say that the Cardinals don't have a number one, that they don't have an ace, that they have a bunch of number 3, 4, and 5 guys, I have not seen enough of a guy like Doyle. And in 2026, Liam Doyle is not going to be a number one starter for a playoff team. If he winds up being a number one starter for a playoff team, it'll be 27, 28. Same thing with Quinn Matthews, who's got front of the rotation stuff. He's got the ability. So I'm not ready to say right now that the Cardinals don't have those guys in their system. I can agree with you that at the moment we don't see that at the top of their rotation. I mean, Matthew Liberatore is like the quintessential league average starting pitcher, which is fine. You need that in the 3, 4, or 5 range. If you have 3 Matthew Liberatores as your 3, 4, and 5, and then you have a front of the rotation guy that can give you 160 innings and give you a strikeout an inning and have that ERA of 3.5. If you can have that as your number one, and then something close to that as your number 2, and then have Liberatore, McGreevy, whether it's Dobbins or Brandon Clark or whomever as your number 5, then you got something going there. So I'm not sure, Matthew, that anybody has the ability right now to judge whether or not the Cardinals have a number 1 and or a number 2 in their organization.
Yeah, that's not and yeah, if we're just gonna go off the hard stats, ERA pluses, which is like OPS plus, being above 500 is a good thing. Being below 500 means you're below average. Both McGreevy and Liberatore last year in the 90s in ERA plus, which puts them just below average for the rest of the league. Parks and all that stuff has been equalized as well. So the fact that they're in a pitcher-friendly park has been kind of taken out of that factor. But, both those guys with, ERAs in the 4 last year slowed down when they hit certain innings. We're going to have to see a lot from them. I think we saw some pretty enticing things from both of those pitchers that make you think they can be, 3.3 ERA level pitchers. But to your point, is there a guy like, is there a guy like a Justin Verlander who, even at his age, can pull 2 or 3 months out of it out where he's a 2.3 ERA pitcher and kind of able to change your season?
Yeah, and the what I said about Liberatore, the league average ERA was 4.15. Liberatore was like 4.21. So the difference between he and league average is negligible. McGreevy didn't pitch a full season. But yeah, you would like to have that guy, especially when you know that you're going to have to go if Zach Wheeler gets healthy, or if you're going against a Nola, or if you're going against a Strider, if he gets healthy, or if you're going against any of the Dodgers guys. You want to have that guy that in game 1, can match up with the other team's number 1. And if you can do that, then you've got an opportunity. And right now, yeah, I would argue that the Cardinals, even within the division, when you look at Edward Cabrera and you look at if Justin Steele comes back, or a Cade Horton for the Cubs, I don't think the Cardinals match up with their rotation at the moment either. But I think we need to reiterate again, they aren't supposed to this year. This, like last year, there's a reason that PECOTA is picking them for 66 wins, because we're finding out about the team this year. This team is not expected to win. And so you find out about where you can slot your starting pitchers this year. And then you go in hopefully to 27, if you have a 27, knowing what you have. And then you hope that that team can ascend throughout the course of the 27 season. I have no expectations for this team having to start their number 1 pitcher in game 1 of a playoff.
Exactly. Dan 3070 says, can you imagine if 2 or 3 everyday players get injured for any length of time? It could get really, really ugly.
Sure. But you know what? I think for any team, that would be the case. Like, what if the Dodgers lost Betts, Ohtani, and Tucker? That could get really ugly. Now, not as ugly as it could here, but there isn't an awful lot of depth in Major League Baseball. If the Brewers lost 3 of their starting 9, a third of their starting nine. The Brewers would be in trouble. The Braves would be in trouble. The Phillies would be in trouble. So, yeah, that can happen. Now, if the Cardinals lose those guys, we're going to wind up seeing people like Josh Baez. We'll see JC play. We'll probably see a catcher switch positions. Nathan Church will get an opportunity. If the Cardinals lose position players, young players that are already in the organization are going to get some opportunities, and maybe the Cardinals will get surprised by somebody. Occasionally that happens. A guy will hop off the roster and another guy will step in and he'll turn out to be Yordan Alvarez. The Dodgers didn't think they were giving up a star when they traded Yordan Alvarez. So maybe a guy like Baez could wind up being that player. The Cardinals, they have a lot of guys. We don't know how good they are, but they do have enough players so that if they lose somebody or two or three guys, they've got enough guys that are close to major league ready that they could intrigue us if they bring somebody up.
DSG Park for Free says, how do you think the Cardinals organization will grade Marmol throughout the season?
I think it really comes down to how individuals perform. And the one thing that Ollie sells himself as is a teacher of baseball. And he's a guy that historically at the minor league level has turned players out and made good players for the major leagues. So what you have to judge, us as fans, and I think the Cardinal front office, how they need to judge him is look at what Jordan Walker was last year. Look at what Nolan Gorman was, what Mason Wynn was, what Victor Scott was, and see if individuals are getting better in every aspect of the game. Is Victor Scott II getting on base more, stealing more bases? Is he a more effective offensive player? Is Jordan Walker, who is approaching league average as a right fielder, getting better as a right fielder? Is he, with that athletic ability, going to go beyond being just an average right fielder? And can he get better? Is he going to start identifying pitches outside the strike zone better and laying off those pitches and then squaring up the pitches that are in or closer to the strike zone? Is Nolan Gorman going to start hitting the ball? We know when Nolan Gorman hits the ball, it goes. Is he going to start hitting the ball? What does an ascent for J.J. Weatherholt look like? Does Burleson hit for a little bit more power? The Cardinals couch him as a 25-homer guy. Hasn't been a 25-homer guy so far. So I think that what I'm going to look at, and I would think that the Cardinals are going to look at, and that's just from a position player standpoint, but that's the pitchers too. It's not what the team does. It's do players get incrementally better as their careers unfold in 2026.
Got another one here. Chat's killing it today. You guys are doing great. Always like, share, and subscribe the stream. Let people know what you're watching and how you like it. Getting RDH 66, not 67. If Walker doesn't figure it out and Baez continues to shine at AAA, how long do you wait to move him up?
It might be 3.5 months, and I would be stunned if Jordan Walker didn't get until the All-Star break.
Do those have to be connected?
Not happen,
Do those things have to be connected?
Who?
Like, does Josh Baez's getting called up based on his success at AAA have to be connected to Walker struggling?
No. If Newt Barr gets hurt and Baez tears it up, I don't think that Baez is going to just be handed a spot, though, based on the great year that he had last year. I think that he's going to have to do it again. And like we talked about earlier in the week, I don't think the Cardinals have much interest in rushing him. I think they want to find out if he's real after what happened last year. We have to keep in mind that until last year, his minor league, and by the way, he had a great year last year in the minors. He had an 884 OPS. But early in his career, it was a 608 OPS, an 870 and a 957 at Palm Beach at low A. Then he moves up and it's a 720. It's in the Florida Coast League. It was a 723. It was a 694. And then he starts turning it on in large part because the Cardinals taught him how to hit last year. But he has, in his 1,394 plate appearances, he's got 0 plate appearances at AAA. So I think the Cardinals want to find out what he does at AAA. He only had 331 plate appearances in AA last year. And I think they want to find out if what he did last year in AA is translatable to AAA. And then once he does that, and he might require 300 or 400 plate appearances at AAA before the Cardinals are convinced that he can be here. But they aren't going to do any more of these, okay, he's got 150 at-bats at AA, he's ready for the majors. That's just not going to happen with this organization anymore because it worked to the detriment of people like Walker and Scott. They didn't have enough time in the minors. And not just Walker and Scott, but Jordan Hicks, Ryan Helsley. A lot of guys were called up way too soon by the last administration, and this administration doesn't want to work it that way. They want to have the guys, as it was explained to me, bleed a little bit, deal with some adversity at the minor league level before they make it to the majors. So I think Baez is going to have to earn it to make it here after the All-Star break.
Craig Lewis, I know you'll like this, Randy. Going back to the pitching, he says, look at where Gray is slotted in Boston. He's a number 3.
Yeah, that's but they, you go get Ranger Suarez and you've got, there's not many guys that are going to be ahead of Crochet and Suarez, right? Those are number ones, both of them on many, many staffs. So Gray being a number 3 there is not a disgrace. And I think for him dealing with the pressures of Boston and not being expected to be the number 1, where every time you go out there, you have a tremendous amount of pressure. I think that fits his personality better too. I think that he'll slot in really well as a number 3 in Boston. I wonder how he'll do where, well, let's put it this way. There's a radio show in Boston where they have a daily segment called The Wheel of Gutless Bums. The media there is not kind in Boston. And if he runs into some problems, and especially if he admits why he's having the problems, I could see the Boston media eating him alive. And people that were around the Yankees when he was there in New York thought that was a problem, him dealing with the pressures of New York. And I know that he's grown up and he's matured and he's been through that process. I just hope for his sake that he can just kind of keep his head down, pitch well, be a number 3, and win more than he loses in Boston so that he doesn't wind up on the wheel of gutless bums.
Randy, I get accused of being the negative one on the morning show a lot. Are you telling me it's not that I'm negative or angry, it's just that I'm in the wrong market?
Yeah, you would fit so well in Boston. Yeah, because you could spin that wheel, and like 90% of the guys are 90% of the players. It doesn't matter how good you're doing; you can still be a gutless bum. You'll
appreciate this morning. Someone called me something that you and Brooke had started calling me on the show back when on the radio, and I was like, God damn it, maybe this is just me in the morning. Somebody called me Eeyore this morning.
Oh no. Keep smiling. Yeah, I love Eeyore.
Jay Spence has got a way to fix it all. Cards want to fix the problem. Get Waino as a pitching coach, Pujols as a hitting coach, Molina as the manager. Boom, number 1.
Okay, I think that's a good start. Who's our third base coach? Roland? First base coach? Big Mac's already got a gig. Big Mac's back with Oakland.
Matt Carpenter.
How about Izzy as the bullpen coach?
I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay, yeah, Marp. I like Marp. Who's your bench coach who's Yachty's bench coach?
Ooh.
Maybe have Albert do that.
Descalso.
A Decal could do it. Okay.
Yeah. Make sure. Yeah, you got to keep Jay and Descalso back on the staff.
Okay. And Jay can be your outfield instructor.
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather have Albert as my bench coach, though.
The thing is like I truly believe that Albert will be a manager and he'll be a very good manager. The problem is, I do believe there is though an issue with guys like that where he's not going to be good at teaching guys everybody how to be a hitter because there's going to be things where he's just like, just do this, and they're going to be like, yeah, I can't do that. And then he's like, well, then I can't teach you how to hit that ball because that's the only way I know how to do it. And it was pretty natural to me. Like, I just think there's some guys who have a blockage because of their greatness.
Yeah, BTI talked about that. How Albert would say, what do you mean you don't see a changeup? Everybody sees a changeup. So yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, some guys just have that ability, and Albert is one of those. I want to work on this coaching staff a little bit more. I want Chris Carpenter as my culture coach.
There you go.
Okay,
I like that.
okay.
So
Is there can we fit Jimmy Ballgame in here? Can maybe he could be your hitting coach? Put Decal at first. Okay, yeah. How about Descalso at first? Albert as your bench coach, and then Jimmy Baseball could be your hitting coach.
are we 100% confident in the Albert bench coach to Yadi's manager and not the other way around?
No, I'm not completely confident in that. I think Albert would do a better job with the media. I think he'd do a better job of getting. I think Albert is just a better communicator with the public than Yadi is, and I wonder if that might be the case with the players too.
Yadi would be a good like Ernie Adams to
there you go.
Belichick. That's how I'm imagining it in my head.
Yep.
The thing about Pujols as well as like a hitting coach, because I think it's that is because like when he would talk to when he was here in 2022, the young guys were essentially would rave about how he made them like we talked to them about like how to like look at the iPad in the video in a way, and like that's the kind of thing where him being with a young hitter, I think that makes a lot of sense. He can teach him how to study, but actually having him work with young guys in like the cage is just like you said, you don't see the changeup. There's a changeup. See a changeup, hit a changeup.
Yep. See, and the other cool thing about this setup that I'm professing is you could have guys working like 24/7 over in Jimmy's basement if they want to come over. He's more than happy to have guys working in his cage at his house. So set that up that way.
Aaron D doesn't have too high expectations for this the new group. He just says he'll judge Heim on if he can produce an ace and a power bat. No big deal.
You know what's interesting is I asked multiple people within the organization, because it used to be, as you know, and probably still is. Well, it is really hard. We were talking earlier about finding a front of the rotation starter. And I just kind of took a straw poll within the organization about whether it's more difficult to find a right-handed power bat or a front of the rotation starting pitcher. And 100% of the people said it's harder to find the right-handed power bat now than it is to find a front of the rotation starting pitcher. So to that point, can he produce both? It'll probably be easier to produce the ace than the power bat.
Yeah, I would agree. We got a good question here from Dan. I like this because we kind of talked around this all off season, but we never really had this segment. Good job by Dan producing today. Are we surprised that they didn't trade any of the catching depth? And yeah, I danced around it all off season. I thought there was a chance they'd maybe move one of the young guys as kind of like we'll throw in one of our good prospects to juice your prospect that's coming back to us. And they never did. And I assume they have a plan to get all these guys some time and kind of, push them through the conveyor belt.
Well, there are questions about Crooks, and I would think other organizations have the same questions. He's a good player, not saying that he's not a good player, but he doesn't have the upside of Bernal or Rodriguez. Rodriguez can be a big time 35, 40 home run power hitter wherever he winds up playing, and he might be a good catcher. Bernal, as we know, was the Gold Glove winner in the minor leagues among catchers, and switch hitter who can also hit for power, and they want to season those guys. They want Bernal to have a full year at AAA. They want Rodriguez to work his way through the system. He'll probably start at high A this year. They don't know about Herrera as a catcher. They are very comfortable with Pages as a defender and a run suppressor, and then Pozo is a good pinch hitter. So I just don't think they're prepared to move those guys because, Matthew, I don't think they know which are going to be catchers for them in the future, which will be other positions. And in the case of Herrera and Rodriguez, I don't think they want to move those bats at all. I would think ultimately the guy that could move, if he shows it and ascends, shows that he's a good player, Crooks, I would think, would be a guy that could move, and then they could have really young catching. by the time we get to 2027, 2028. But Crooks will get an opportunity here. Left-handed bat, pretty good left-handed bat, not great. Pretty good catcher, not great. So I think that that's the guy that they could move, but they just don't know about it. And here's the thing, if you move Crooks and Herrera doesn't wind up being a catcher, then all of a sudden you've got Pages and Pozo, and you aren't thrilled with that because Bernal's not ready to come up. So
yeah,
I don't think that they were prepared to make that move yet.
And then the Kansas City San Diego trade deadline move where they traded for Fermin, who's a defense first catcher, the Padres did. I thought maybe that might have signaled that there's some value out there for a Pages, but to your point, trading away Pages would then expose them to not having any kind of consistency defensively behind the plate. If Ivan Herrera doesn't work out, if Jimmy Crooks isn't the guy, if he doesn't have a bat that can sustain his ability to stay in the lineup, like there's, what we were just talking about earlier with the depth in the lineup, ironically enough, the thing you can't really compromise game handling when all of your pitchers are so young. And so sacrificing the Pages side of things, I don't think it was ever a serious conversation that could have been had.
Oh. And the other part of it is they really like their catching. And with the veterans that they traded, they've got plenty of starting pitching now. Not that you ever have too much starting pitching, but they can fill out a AAA rotation and a AA rotation and a high A rotation with no problem at all. So you've got your starting pitchers. You're loaded with bullpen arms. So what you would have been trading for, if you could find it, is other position players. But you might like let's just throw Reinel Rodriguez out there as a possibility. Cardinals probably think that if they have to move Rodriguez to the outfield, they'd rather have his bat than any bat that they could trade him for during this offseason. So I don't know that there were moves to be made once you made the trades with Contreras and Gray and Arenado and ultimately Donovan. I think they took care of their system in pretty good shape. It's the number 2 system in all of baseball, according to Baseball America.
Randy, you like getting into the nerdy side on the baseball stuff, so I'm going to throw you this pitch, and if you want to take a swing at it, go ahead. If not, we can let it move on by. I think what Walker needs to do is move closer to the plate. Then the high and in fastballs will look more like balls, and he doesn't have to swing. And then those away sliders, maybe with his long arms, he can finally poke it far, or the sliders will look a little bit more like balls instead. That was a secondary text as well.
What he needs to do is move closer to the plate. Then the high and in fastballs will look more like balls, and he won't swing. Then those way sliders, maybe with his long arms, he can poke it fair. So move closer to the plate. Yeah, get more plate coverage, but you still want to extend your arm so that you get that incredible exit velo that he gets on a regular basis. But I would think that there are enough people in the Cardinal organization that know hitting, that if they can find a way to make Jordan Walker as good as he can be, they're going to take it upon themselves to try to teach him that. And Matthew, one of the things that we heard last year, and I heard during the offseason as well, is that the issues with Walker weren't as much physical as they were mental, in terms of his mental preparation for the game. Brant Brown even went public with that last year on KMOX, and I think it was with Bernie and Chris Ranji, talking about how he needs to have his homework done by the time he gets to the ballpark. Yes, his changes in his approach and in his stance are frustrating and troubling, and the Cardinals want to have more consistency there, but he will have consistent teaching this year. And I don't think the Cardinals, I know that the Cardinals are not going to allow him to keep changing every time something goes bad. They're going to be very process oriented, and if their belief is that if he plays to the process, he doesn't need to worry about the results, that the results will come. So I would expect that at the beginning of this season, you will see a much more consistent Jordan Walker at the plate, rather than putting his toe up and all of that stuff, and the leg kick and all of that. I think the Cardinals are done with that, and they just want to see him do the physical things necessary to be the hitter that they think he can be. Oh, by the way, one other note I think we need to keep in mind is, for all the launch angle crap of the last couple of years, how we're going to send him down, we're going to change his launch angle. Cardinals are just going to let him be him, and they're going to let him hit the ball hard and let him develop which is a really interesting concept. But I remember watching Jack Clark with San Francisco, a line drive hitter, and we didn't have launch angle back in the day, but he was a line drive hitter, and ultimately got to the point where he hit 35 homers. He hit the ball hard and started to get a little bit more lift. Sometimes you just have to let a player grow and marinate rather than expect him to change what got him to the major leagues within the space of a couple of weeks, and then you bring him back. That was a huge mistake that the Cardinals made with him in 23 when he had the 12-game hitting streak. They should have just let him develop, let the kid grow up, and they never did. Somebody said, yeah, they broke him. It'd be a shame to see him go to Atlanta and succeed. That's why the Cardinals are worried about that too. That's why he's going to get every opportunity here to perform at a high level. And it might not be just the 3.5 months. Maybe he does take some time like Adele did, Joe Adele, not the singer Adele, but Joe Adele did with the Angels, right?
Now, she's also taking time away, and frankly,
she is.
Like,
yep.
I respect that. Get back to work. We need bangers.
Hmm?
Bob Run 5546 says, "Wow, how fast they forget how badly Gorman and Walker have been screwed up by Marmol. Laughable."
Okay, I don't know where Bob's coming from here, but I do appreciate that he's paying attention. I think organizationally, I don't think it was necessarily Ali Marmol that was making the decision to send players to the minor leagues or to try to change their launch angle. I think there might have, I know, there might have been instruction on the part of the front office to try to get those players to change to be something that they weren't at that particular time. Now, at the end of the day, was it Marmol who carried out the instructions he was given? Yes. But I don't believe, number one, I know Ali Marmol didn't manage either of these guys in the minors. And Matthew, as we know, when these players have been sent down to make changes, it has been as much the front office, a.k.a. John Mozeliak, that has talked about changing them as it has been the manager. Philosophically, I think the orders came from the top. So I'm not so sure that it is only Ali Marmol that has caused these issues for Gorman and Walker. And I mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. If you hit on 50% of your prospects, you're doing really, really well. It could be not out of the realm of possibility that Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker just don't wind up being great because they were not preordained to be great. Some players are meant to be great and they turn into great major leaguers. Some guys, it just doesn't happen. Some guys, they never do wind up being great. Some guys, look at how long it took Jurickson Profar to turn into a representative major league hitter. It took him a decade, and he wound up becoming a pretty good major league hitter. Never great, but pretty good. And we have no guarantees that Oscar Taveras would have been that guy. There's only been one Albert Pujols. So I think that sometimes we unfairly judge people by saying they were broken by somebody or it was somebody's fault. Maybe sometimes it's just the situation that the guy wasn't going to be great.
I have never seen the chat so universally pro Ali Marmol as responding to that comment that we read and that you were just responding to overall. It was a lot of everyone kind of came together. It was very impressive. I liked it. That was fun.
And Matthew, let's make this point as well, because I think it applies to more than just Ivan Herrera. When Chaim Bloom said at the winter meetings, I don't think organizationally we put Ivan Herrera in the best position to succeed. I think you can put Jordan Walker's name in there. I think you can put Victor Scott's name in there. I think you can put Nolan Gorman's name there. I think you can put Dylan Carlson's name in there. I don't think that we put player X in the best position to succeed. And that was an organizational issue. They didn't teach players at the minor league level. Why? Because they didn't have minor league teachers.
Have the coaches.
Right? If you don't have minor league teachers, it's hard to teach the minor league players. And then they get here and they're not ready or they're rushed. And it's, number one, hard to teach at the major league level because these are the best of the best that are pitching to you. And a lot of times these players have been thrown into the pool and it's sink or swim. we've told the story before. I'll give it one more time, just because this is a Jordan Walker story. When the Cardinals made the trade for Jordan Montgomery in 22, it was at the trade deadline, July 31st of 22. They trade Jordan Montgomery and get Harrison Bader. And they moved Jordan Walker from third base to right field, where he'd never played before. And they didn't have a minor league outfield instructor. And they said, yeah, go play right field. Now, he did have a manager at the AAA level, but they didn't have anybody specifically assigned to teach him how to play the outfield. Then they do the same thing with him. They do everything they can to try to get him to be a representative right fielder on opening day of 2023. And he really didn't have a chance. So the Cardinals are doing a much better job of teaching organizationally now. And I would think, Matthew, I'd be shocked if when players got to the major league level now, they were much more drilled in how to be a winning baseball player than they have been in the past.
Yeah, everything needs to change. Mike Matheny, who kind of said it and it was panned, but I get why he kind of has the comment of like, we're not here to teach baseball at this level. I get why he says that, because it's hard. It's hard in the 162 game schedule to lock in on individual things to the level you need to when you need to actually grow as a player. That's why the minors are there. That's why the levels are there. That's why there's movement and all that stuff. But hey, if the most important players in your organization are your catching prospects, and you don't have any catching instructors, things are going to be problematic. And if you can't build up from the bottom as a mid market or small market team, you're always going to fail. And somehow they lost sight of that.
Yeah. And by the way, the game has changed a lot since Mike Matheny managed the Cardinals, because when Mike was here, the Cardinals had 6 minor league teams. Now you're limited to 4 affiliated minor league teams in the United States. You have low A, you have high A, you have double A, and you have triple A. You don't have those extra teams. So while the Cardinals used to have about 200 players in their system, if you include what was down in the Dominican Academy, now they have like 150, 140, and players get here so much faster now, Matthew, than they did before, because you had 6 teams to go through the organization and traverse and learn. And now, because of the analytics and the belief that they know what a good player is, players are rushed to the major leagues by all franchises more than they used to be. And so even a guy like J.J. Weatherholt, who the Cardinals believe is ready, he's not going to be completely seasoned, and there's going to have to be some teaching done at the major league level. Tony never had to do that. Tony La Russa would get guys that were ready to rock and roll, and sometimes they just weren't capable of rocking and rolling. Sometimes you wind up with a Colby Rasmus. But for the most part, in Tony's days, when the Cardinals sent a player through their system, and let's just go like in 2010, 2011, Dan Billardella was a manager at low A, taught players, that was a great minor league manager and did great. And the Cardinals had a bunch of guys roving throughout their system to help players at low A. Billardella would turn players over to Ollie Marmol. He would get them ready to go to the next level, which was double A. And so players got seasoned. When there's no more they can do at high A, he passes them off, Ollie does, to Mike Schilt at double A. Schilt, obviously a great teacher. Again, you have a bunch of minor league instructors that are teaching players how to play, get better, get experience, and then he turns them over to Pop Warner, and Warner puts the finishing touches on, and then a player is presented to the majors, and he's a polished product. Now, because of the nature of Major League Baseball and the way that you rush players through the system, that player generally isn't as polished. Even a guy like J.J. Weatherholt won't be as polished as a guy like Skip Schumacher was when he arrived on the major league scene.
Michael Palmer wants to know, just curious, was Johnson City disbanded by the Cardinals, or was that MLB? That was part of the Major League Baseball's contraction, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now you've got
they go from like 140 to 90.
Yeah, right. Johnson City disbanded. Yeah, it was MLB. They contracted everybody. And by the way, a lot of the facilities and a lot of those minor league outposts were not great, but the baseball was. And so, yeah, now you have your Florida State League entry. You've got Peoria, that's high A. You've got Springfield double A, and then Memphis triple A, and that's it. That's there is no more Johnson City for players to get started at anymore. And that's a shame because I think it was good for players. I think it was better for the product of the sport, but it doesn't cost nearly as much. If every team loses 2 minor league teams, that's 60 minor league teams that MLB and MLB teams were financing and paying players for that they don't have to. 60 teams times 25, whatever that might be. Let's see, that's 250 for 10, 500 for 20 teams, right? So 1,500 players that they were paying before. Not much. They weren't paying them a lot of money, but they aren't paying anybody now. And so they're saving a bunch.
Yeah, they are. Randy, we got to finish up the show here, but we do have one other thing we have to talk about today because there was a little news in the St. Louis world, and that came from our good friends over at St. Louis City SC. They announced their new secondary jersey. People have been reacting a lot to it, and
what's love got to do with it?
I'm just gonna pop open. I got a little thing from our good friends over at St. Louis City. Everyone can see that.
So he's going to try to open this. He's going to have a difficult time because Matthew never does anything nice and easy. Matthew likes to do things rough.
How many more you got?
I don't know.
So, first of all, got a little card here explaining it. Also, I like the city X Tina. I like that. St. Louis is where Anna Mae Bullock found her voice, the city where she became Tina Turner. And today, her unstoppable energy and enduring spirit continues to inspire us all. This jersey is a celebration of Tina's tenacity, a shimmering tribute to the queen of rock and roll. It only seemed right to us that you get to your very own Tina kit. Appreciate that from St. Louis City SC. And let's see this beast in person, Randy Karraker. Let's see. Let's see it in person. There it is. There is the St. Louis City new secondary kit for everybody. The gold shimmer, as I'm reading off of the explanation from St. Louis City, the gold shimmer is iconic for Tina's gold fringe dress and gold records. This jersey is designed to shine under bright lights, a shimmering tribute to the queen of rock and roll and her legacy, legendary bold style. And you can kind of see it has like the way that the dress would kind of be on her. It's kind of got that printed on it. It's not wrinkles that's printed on it. There's a red trim, which, is obviously they're always going to be trying to stick that kind of city red wherever they can. You got the BJ Healthcare. I like this. This is, I think, a really cool one. The very iconic portrait of Tina is on a patch on the very bottom of it, and you also have her signature or autograph on the back.
Oh, nice. That? Okay, good.
Yeah, there it is. You're seeing that across the back as well. The one thing I will say, because marketing's marketing, but this is the secondary crest for St. Louis City SC, and this is the explanation. I just have to read this because this does make me laugh. For the first time ever on our jersey, this badge represents our club and all the stars throughout the STL region who move our city forward every day. Listen, it's a good-looking kit. I don't really get that from the plain black logo.
I think it's the best.
Nice. Simply, and then obviously you got Purina, you got Adidas. It's a big deal. First time that Adidas has ever done a soccer jersey collab having to do with a female artist.
Okay, cool, it's a soccer kit collab. Hello. City SC, I'm really glad that you sent my partner Matthew Rocchio a shirt, but you better be good to me.
I'm impressed by how many of these you have, honestly.
No,
this is really good.
Thank you.
I really like this.
And you trade Klaus. We don't need another hero. We're fine.
There you go. Nicely done by Randy Karraker.
I like the color. I'm cool with it. And I hope that other cities and other fan bases recognize the allegiance to the St. Louis and Tina Turner. Like, as a fan of the Colorado Rapids or the LA Galaxy or even Sporting KC, are they going to recognize that this is an homage to Tina Turner? Or are they just going to say, hey, they didn't wash their jerseys?
I think it's more like they didn't iron their jerseys.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the ripples, the ripples, the ruffles, the wrinkles, whatever you want to refer to them as, I think that is a very interesting stylistic choice. It's maybe the one that I don't 100% agree with. Space Magic Storm said he was thinking more like record grooves. Cam Jansen pointed out that it looks kind of like the dresses she would wear, and I was like, that's actually a really good call by Cam.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really like it. I think the like the weird like shiny gold that some of the leaks made it look like isn't bad. I mean, I don't have a lot of bright lighting here. I'll turn off this lighting is crappy for the broadcast. See, it's really crappy for the broadcast. But I mean, just holding it under this a lot brighter light. I mean, that's not like as like garishly shiny as some of the Instagram leaks. Yeah. It's a pretty normal kind of like dulled pale gold. It's nothing crazy.
Cool. I love Samuel Howe's chat here. An unboxing.
I had to do it.
That's pretty cool.
As soon as they sent it, I was like, okay, I gotta unbox this. Samuel Howe, will it be glitterly like Twilight Vampires? No, it's not that glitterly. It's fairly muted. But I think it's got. I mean, listen, there's some people out there who don't like that it doesn't have a lot of the primary colors that City made a big deal about when it first released with the City Red, the Energy Yellow, and the River Blue. There's no River Blue in this kit. There wasn't one in the last one they did either. They went big on kind of a different version of the Energy Yellow. I don't understand why people are making a big hoopla. I think it's a perfectly solid kit, and you use it for a year and a half because next year's a shortened season.
All right, Matthew, question. As a youngin', I'll start by saying I don't care about jersey patches and revenue generators on jerseys for teams. Do you think that pro sports franchises and college sports franchises, by the way, should pass up the revenue that can be generated by patches or advertising on their kits or jerseys?
No, I mean, as long as you're not dealing with, reprehensible companies, or in the case of a lot of English teams, reprehensible countries, you're fine. I love Purina, love me some BJC healthcare. Nothing. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, get your money. Use it to buy better players. Use it to subsidize cool spaces. Use it to not increase concessions prices every year. That's the way to go. I do like the one thing I like about this kit. It's not like a seeable thing, but on the back, on the shoulders, and on the back, there's like the venting has a lot of it's kind of tactile, and I kind of like that. I think it's a good jersey. I think especially in a league where you're getting a new jersey essentially every year because you put your home jersey in your secondary jersey, or I guess your primary and your secondary, no home or away, I guess, because they're going to wear this mostly away, but at some home games as well. Because they're all shifting in 2-year increments, you can just try stuff and see what it hits, and you can honor somebody who went to high school in St. Louis and started out an incredible career here. And for some reason, people who don't like that it's somebody different, then wait long enough. I guarantee you they're going to keep doing so.
2 more years. Yeah. Exactly. And by the way, you mentioned that detail there, kind of like with the Cardinal City Connects, where on the red, they have the waves of the river and stuff. I really like when you see a jersey up close, those little, there is no such thing as a little detail, but I like the detail that is displayed in the way jerseys are made these days. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I just like that they tried something different. And Peter Woods, who works for the city or works for City, pointed out that they came to the family of Tina Turner with this idea in like December of 2023. So we're talking about, right after the first season ends. So this was a long time coming. They put a lot of work into this, and I think it does work perfectly. I don't think they did it on purpose, but it does kind of work perfectly that one of the more experimental jerseys is one that catches the shortened season next year when they're switching the schedules around. But I like that they took a shot, and I like that they connected it to somebody that maybe not a lot of people always associate with St. Louis. And to your point, Randy, we know what the next one, when they need to collaborate on the next kind of city jersey, this is called the Tina kit. We figured out what the next one is. The next one's the McDonald kit, because you love them for Doobie Brothers. I'm a big Steely Dan guy, and I was reminded today that Michael McDonald is from St. Louis. So down the road, there's no reason why a secondary kit for the legend Michael McDonald shouldn't be in the cards.
Do they need to pay homage to the Murphy Lee Randy Karraker collab that happened a few years ago.
Yes, there's some people angry that Tina got a jersey before Nelly. I don't know why they're surprised by that. I think eventually, though, that's in the cards.
I'm good. Hey, we want to remind people again before we go that coming up on February 17th, it's the 1-year anniversary of STL Sports Central. And if we can put that page back up there to celebrate, we're going to give away prizes that include tickets as well as autographed merchandise courtesy of Joe Yancey and Fanfare Collectibles. Find out how to register and to win on all STL Sports Central social media accounts. Just check it out right there, and just go to our X, Facebook, and Instagram pages, and you can sign up to win cards, blues, and Mizzou tickets, autographed items, and the winners will be announced on our 1-year anniversary on February 17th. It's really easy to do, and just go to our socials, and you'll be able to do that. Matthew, as always, great work by you. Thank you, sir.
No problem. I want to remind everybody, when it comes to being an STL Sports Central insider, we're also announcing the winner of our Jamal Mayers alumni boxes on the February 17th. So if you want to watch Connor McDavid face off against the Blues in the alumni box, eating good food, hanging out with Jamal Mayers and the other alumni, you have to subscribe to be an STL Sports insider. You can always do that at stlsportscentral.com.
All right, get on over there. For Wilson, who got us on the air, and Matthew, I'm Randy. Thanks so much for being with us here on the Randy Karraker Show, and we will see you next time. Have a good evening, everyone.